From the time that I've been on YouTube, I've seen many content creators come and go, whether it's for personal reasons or other reasons that pertain to the internet, but it's not very often that I will come across a creator who stands out to the likes of Mellay. Mellay is a 15-year-old content creator who established his YouTube channel in late 2021. From the early aspects of his channel, his content consists of generally effortless and random videos, which have somehow garnered a decent amount of traction. However, as his channel grew in popularity, he began to post content that became increasingly controversial. Even in his newer low-effort shitposts, they're usually short videos revolving around some sort of controversy that can easily be summed up in a community post. With Mellay's name being entangled in constant controversy along with how poorly he tends to handle it, his reputation has been seriously tainted within the small commentary community. This has ultimately led to various commentary channels not only criticizing his approach to drama, but the overall quality of his content as well. This has not only affected how he is seen by other commentators and viewers, but also affected his ability to act properly in the controversies that he's involved in. In this video, Iris and I will be attempting to provide Mellay with constructive criticism while also shining some light on the wrongdoings he's done behind the scenes. Stay tuned because we will be unveiling Mellay's hidden truth, which includes some things that are likely to come as a surprise. Before diving into his unhinged actions, I believe Mellay's content should be thoroughly dissected as it is honestly subpar and it is in desperate need of criticism. Like I said, there have been plenty of other content creators who have attempted to provide him with criticism. However, Mellay typically tends to ignore it, brush it off, and continues to put out content without implementing any of the criticism that he's received. That being said, criticizing his content may ultimately be pointless, but I still would like to express my opinion and provide him with more opportunities to improve. As I glazed over before, his earlier videos are generally effortless and half-assed, prime examples being these Sonic Prime Chaos Control videos and SpongeBob Bootleg.
Chaos Control! Chaos Control! Chaos Control!
It still perplexes me how these videos have gained an accumulative total of over 185,000 views, but that's besides the point. As his YouTube lifetime progressed, he started posting more and more content that revolved around controversy. Even his more recent low-effort content keeps the same theme of trying to accelerate internet drama. The earliest public example of this low-effort shitpost style of video where he engages in some sort of controversy is a video titled The Zroomie Rant. At a first glance, the total duration of the video is just under 2 minutes, but the video doesn't even really start until halfway in. The video starts off with a completely off-topic and unrelated YouTube short, followed by nearly 30 seconds of a random inaudible gibberish with some low-quality gameplay in the background.
Flashback here, I'm talking in a microphone for a really first time. Yes, I'm paracynical. I'm not an imposter, guys. I am totally not an imposter. Anyways, yeah, welcome to my YouTube channel.
There's maybe a total of 2 sentences where he even remotely explains what this video is supposed to be about, and even those are barely distinguishable due to him unnecessarily lowering the pitch of his own voice. Maybe he's trying to be funny or something. That's the only explanation I can think of. Now we're already 42 seconds into the video, which is already a huge chunk of all 116 seconds that this video is, and he's just now starting the actual video. Mellay plays a clip of a Discord call with the subject of his video, Zroomie, in an attempt to expose him or rant on him like the title implies. The issue with this is that after he plays the clip, he rambles on without adding any important or useful information to the clip he just provided. Now, I've actually gone through and attempted to transcribe his video and pick out each sentence that even slightly relates to the situation or adds anything notable. I've then gone and calculated the total amount of time he spent saying these specific sentences and compared it to the total duration of the video. Feel more than free to pause and look through this if you want, but the conclusion I came up with, after all the calculations, the total amount of useful content and informative opinions Mellay provides roughly equates to 6.44% of the total video. That's not a lot, and it's especially sad when you take into account how long the video actually is. Mellay still somehow managed to say practically nothing related to the topic at hand in a video that's barely 2 minutes long. Now, I'm gonna try to make this more fair. This is just one video out of many of his videos, and it is also some of his older content, so let's try to give him the benefit of the doubt and review a more recent video from a month ago called Content Callout Pack God. The amount of time between these two videos is around 6 months, which is plenty of time for him to improve the quality of his content. After the first watch of this more recent video, it's already a huge improvement. It's structured better, you can actually hear what the hell he's saying, and he does make a lot of actual points. However, his video is still pretty littered with a lot of weak insults and unnecessary information. I've given this video the same treatment as the other one by going through it and transcribing the entire video and sifting through what he says. This time, I've not only highlighted his actual points, but I've also gone ahead and highlighted his unnecessary attempts at insulting, trying to be funny, or something else that doesn't really add anything useful. Just for the sake of consistency, I'm just gonna group all of this into one word: bullshit. Again, here is my transcription that I've managed to whip up from this video after about an hour of dissecting it, but the results I got are roughly 12.2% of the entire video being actual talking points, which is already an improvement from 6%. However, this is accompanied by a whopping 40.1% being unrelated bullshit, or weak insults or failed attempts to be funny. Now, some of you may notice that the two percentages summed up don't actually equate to 100%, but I didn't factor in the random clips he played, opinions he shared, and whatever else didn't fall into my two categories. So in conclusion, while Mellay's content did improve, he still has a lot to work on, especially because his content is honestly subpar compared to other videos of the same genre. His script writing is poor, he really doesn't talk too much about the topic at hand, and in some of his more recent videos, he tends to just kind of ramble, and he often strays away from what he's supposed to be talking about. Because of this, his videos generally aren't very entertaining to watch, they're even kind of awkward at some points.
But anyways, who will watch 11-minute video on transgenders, bro? They're not really important people anyways. Yeah, but still, Mellay needs to stop his transphobic tendencies and his bigoted tendencies. Yeah, I'm gonna ground that fucker. I'm gonna ground him. I'm gonna fucking whoop his ass with a belt.
And in my personal opinion, his videos just lack the basic fundamentals to keep a viewer watching, let alone subscribe to him. Now, I've already criticized a couple of his videos here, but if you're still interested in what his content has to offer, then feel completely free to head over to his channel and analyze his videos for yourself. I'm sure your opinion won't differ very far from mine. Apart from his mediocre content, Mellay tends to possess some characteristics that are pretty negative, from having a large ego to just unfiltered lunacy that a lot of you may not know about. Behind the scenes, Mellay is honestly just an asshole, for lack of a better term, and this is often portrayed through his Discord DMs and tweets. But before we switch platforms, let's just take a quick look at his community tab just to kick this off. So after not much digging, honestly, I was able to find this post from him. He posted, "The drama was faked. Me and, I don't know how to say that, Kuiper, are still the Drake and Josh of the small commentary community." This phrase, calling you and your random friend the Drake and Josh of the small commentary community, is honestly just a very egotistical thing to say. There's probably a decent amount of users within the community that have no idea who you are. Hell, I didn't even know who this Kuiper person was before I read this fucking post. It goes without saying that your presence isn't really that known in the community, and when your name is brought up, it's usually not talked very fondly of. My theory is that you have to claim such a high status in the community as a form of defense or a way to reinforce your high ego, or to try and deflect any criticism or hate given to you without actually addressing it. But this post was 5 months ago. Once again, 5 months is plenty of time for someone to change and improve themselves, so I'm gonna give Mellay the benefit of the doubt. Every post after this one is basically just self-promotion, which isn't necessarily bad, but they don't really give any insight to whether he's improved as a person or not, which is exactly why we are going to take a trip over to Twitter to take a gander at some of the things he's been posting. We'll see tweets where he's just reposting unfunny memes, engaging in arguments as if he wants people to hate him, and honestly just being a hypocrite. In this tweet, Mellay is responding to a user threatening to expose him from the looks of it. Mellay doesn't exactly address anything and just goes directly to saying, "Oh, so scary. How about you get some speech therapy first?" Which, honestly, in my personal opinion, is extremely hypocritical, because as soon as you go to his channel and click on one of his videos, you'll understand what I'm saying.
Also, Mellay is a scammer. When someone edits for him, he say, "Give me some cash." They said 30, and I said, "No, bitch, give me 70." And then he never pay them back when they're done the editing.
They're just really hard to watch because he's not really able to form a coherent sentence himself. So yeah, that's just a quick example I found of his hypocrisy. Scrolling further down, we'll see that he posted a tweet that's basically just him tooting his own horn by saying, "This has gotta be my best comeback yet." And it's followed by a screenshot of him in some random Discord argument. First of all, I mean, nobody really cares about this. I don't know why you're posting this. I mean, a random Discord argument that you managed to get yourself into shouldn't really concern your entire Twitter audience. But the comeback I can assume he's talking about is your bloody wrists give people PTSD. And honestly, I didn't even think he was talking about this at first, since it's just a really shitty comeback. It took me a second to realize that's actually the comeback he was talking about. He's the only one supporting himself in this argument from what I can see, judging from this tweet having 130 views with no comments or reposts. It is really sad when you think about it. Seriously, how fucking big does your ego have to be to go on Discord, get in a random argument with somebody, say some shit that isn't really creative or, you know, is honestly just a shitty insult overall, take a screenshot of it, post it publicly, and say, "This is my best comeback yet"? Nobody is agreeing with you. Honestly, if I were you, I would have taken this down a long time ago because this is just embarrassing. But sorry, moving on. Some other examples of random egotistical tweets from him include, "Me and Ghost Nuts are not in drama. We're in war. I will destroy this dude in 2 years, guys. Don't worry. Mellay 2023 would be slapping. How savage can I go on Twitter?" And, can't forget, holy shit, you're a closeted Mellay fan. So not only is he being incredibly egotistical at first glance, but he is also delusional enough to make up something that doesn't exist. A Mellay fan. No matter how hard he tries, it just seems impossible for him to hide that massive ego. Even if these tweets weren't trying to make him seem like that, they still did, and he just naturally just comes across like that. Remember earlier when I mentioned that community post 5 months ago and how he's had plenty of time to improve? Well, the last tweet I mentioned, the one where he calls someone a closeted Mellay fan, was from December 5th, and the date I'm writing this script is December 24th of the same year. These tweets are very recent compared to the community post from earlier. In a span of 5 months, 5 entire months, Mellay hasn't improved one bit. If anything, he's just gotten worse. And my theory is that this is just the person he truly is. He doesn't really care to change because in his own mind, he's perfect and he doesn't need to. His ego completely prevents him from being able to take criticism of any kind, and I honestly could not imagine him changing anytime soon. His Twitter is just packed full of embarrassing tweets, so if you're willing to take one for the team and sacrifice your brain cells, you could just head over to his Twitter and read them for yourself. You know, assuming you won't get utterly disgusted by his tweets and make it further than I managed to. But anyway, we're gonna move on from Twitter. What I just showed you was probably enough, but get this, there's fucking more. We're gonna move on to the Discord DMs with me alone. I actually have a first-hand account of him sending weird and random shit to me, so why not use his messages to prove my point? After all, they're right there on my screen. But before I show you, I feel like there is some backstory that needs to be established before going over these messages. Insert Ari, a friend of mine, a friend of Virus's, and someone who is going to be very important to the rest of this video. So to sum it up, Mellay would constantly sexually harass her in DMs and say creepy and unhinged things to her, but we'll be going over that more in the next segment. I asked him the simple question of, "You like Ari?" He deflects the question by saying he's talking to her and asking if I want to join. I decline because why the fuck would I want to talk to Mellay? And then he immediately says, "She likes me, by the way. She thinks I have a better personality." Better personality than who? Once again letting his massive ego shine through. I asked him what Ari said to make him think that, and he says, "She would give me cigs and a bong and vapes." So even if Ari did say that, that doesn't indicate that she likes him at all. It doesn't say anything about his personality, and he's really just feeding his own ego by taking any little hint he possibly can and turning it into something it wasn't meant to be. So I'm gonna show you guys more messages, but these ones don't relate to Ari, but I still feel like I should show them, because honestly, he's just an unhinged creep. He sends a picture of a girl, I think, I don't know. It honestly looks like a guy with a girl filter on, and I wouldn't even really be surprised if it was Mellay himself. So he sends me this completely out of the blue. I naturally ask if it's him, that's my first thought. He once again again avoids my question and says, I wish I had a sister who looks like this, then maybe I would do incest if she's hot. I don't even like repeating after him myself, but there you go. At absolutely no point in our conversation was incest brought up, and Mellay took it upon himself to mention it and just say some deranged shit for no apparent reason. Maybe he was bored? I don't know, but what the fuck? I don't get it. He then sends a picture of another random girl, probably from fucking Twitter, and then claims it's his girlfriend. Obviously, nobody is believing this, so I asked the question of how many parasocial relationships he's gonna get into. She lives 4 hours away. I can fuck her any time of the week. To this day, I still can't really think of a reason why he would say this shit to me. It could just be a sad attempt at him trying to boost his own ego or portray himself in a way that seems higher or more superior to me, but this is a recurring thing, and like I said, I just will never understand. Later, he sends me a picture of Ari, back to Ari, blocking him on Discord and says, I always win. Now, me personally, I couldn't really imagine a scenario where a girl blocking you is a win for you exactly, but hey, believe whatever the fuck you want, I guess. You claim to always win, but you're really the only person saying that. Not many people are really on your side about a lot of things, not to mention the surplus of videos made about you, which criticize you and your content, and you really do have the fattest shit stain on your name in the commentary community. I don't know what makes you think you're winning, but you're way far from it. Just look at the dislike ratio on your Pat God video. You can't look at this and tell me you always win, because at the end of the day, that's just another one of your delusions that will never come true. Now for the part of the video that you came here for. This section will be dedicated entirely to exposing how much of a creep Mellay actually is, and the incredibly distasteful things that Mellay's been doing under the radar. Mellay should not be getting away with these things that I'm about to talk about, and that's half the reason I even want to bring these things to the public eye. We've gone over his content and the way he publicly acts online, so now it's time we dive deeper into how much of a psychopath he truly is. I don't really think this section needs much introduction because I don't know that there's much I can do to prepare you guys for what you're about to see. You'll just have to buckle in and come along for the ride. So to start off, we're gonna get right into it. I'm just gonna go over something Mellay did that's not quite as extreme as some of the later stuff, but still a really childish and embarrassing thing to do. Many of you guys are probably aware of the YouTuber Bear Studios. If you're a regular follower of mine, you'll know who this is, but for those that don't know, Bear's a friend of mine and Iris's and has been for a couple years now. On January 29th, 2023, Bear posted a video titled The Mellay Rant. Now, a good chunk of Bear's content is satire, and that theme also applies to this video, but he does actually make some good talking points, but that's besides the point. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go and watch it. But anyway, a couple weeks later, Bear posted this screenshot on his Twitter account. Basically, it's just a message from YouTube saying that someone by the name of Ballin Rusley has struck his Mellay Rant video for copyright. Now, the fact that this video about Mellay is being copyright struck already sends up a huge flare that it's actually Mellay who attempted to get this video taken down. Bear just assumed that this Ballin Rusley person was just an alt account of Mellay's. Apparently he recognized the name from before, but he decided to take the matter into his own hands and do some research. If we type Ballin Rusley into Google with quotation marks, one and only one result will come up, and that result is Mellay videos. Now, Bear claims that at the time he Googled the name Ballin Rusley, a link to one of Mellay's alt accounts actually came up. It looks like he's taken that alt account down since then, but the fact that an internet archive link of Mellay's videos comes up when you search the name pretty much confirms Bear was telling the truth. However, there is concrete evidence beyond a Google search that proves that Mellay was the one who struck this video. Going back to Bear's tweet, if we look in the comments, the first comment is from one of Mellay's alts saying that he took it down just to quote, mess with him. Bear responds with, how is this a joke? Just remove the strike. Completely reasonable response, honestly. Mellay then replies to that and says, I will if you stop being annoying, and provides a screenshot of him about to retract the strike. So what Mellay did here doesn't really help his image at all. It just makes him more of an insufferable asshole. A copyright strike can be a genuinely serious thing, and in no way is striking someone's video down a joke to any extent. It's really not funny, and by doing this, Mellay just makes it clear that his ego was completely shattered by Bear's video. Honestly, I'm willing to bet that if Bear never found out that this Ballin Rusley person was Mellay's alt, the strike would still be there and Mellay would have never come out and said anything about it. It only became a joke after he was called out for it. Obviously, this is just a complete dickhead move from Mellay, but they they did sort it out and the strike was retracted, so that's good. Another thing Mellay did that I want to talk about is hitting and shoving his own mom on camera. Many of you guys probably already know about this since the clip has been floating around, but I'm just gonna go over it for those that aren't really aware of it. What I'm about to show you is a video taken by Mellay. As you can see, it's just a video of him attacking his mom for whatever reason. I've blurred her face just for privacy reasons. Honestly, I don't really think she'd be okay with a random person on the internet showing a video of her getting hit by her own son. But since Mellay's face isn't in this video, someone could easily say this is not him. However, in this screenshot, there's someone named Nugget presenting the video to Mellay and asking if it's him. Mellay confirms that it's him in the video and then starts fucking laughing at the video. This fucking delusional, narcissistic piece of shit starts fucking laughing at himself, beating his mom. Beating your mom is probably one of the least fucking funny things you could do. Even in the video, he's laughing at the end of it. I don't understand why Mellay would record himself literally assaulting his own mother. Maybe it's for YouTube views or attention. Maybe it's because he thinks he's the funniest person in the fucking world. It's probably a combination of both. But regardless, this is simply just not okay. And there really isn't any excuse for this fucking degenerate behavior. So much for being the Drake and Josh of the commentary community. Cause honestly, Mellay's more like the Chris Brown of the commentary community. Now, I do understand that the screenshots of Mellay saying it's him could be faked, but if someone really was faking these screenshots, I don't think they would be smart enough to block the Mellay account. Most people wouldn't really put that much thought into something like that when faking screenshots like this, so I'm pretty confident that these are all real. Plus, I did get this screenshot from Ari, and Ari is a pretty reliable source when it comes to all this, which is a perfect bridge to the next disgusting things that Mellay did that I want to talk about. I know for a fact that no other commentator that's made a video about Mellay has this information, and I'm honestly really glad I get to expose something like this because not only is Ari my friend, but we also have her who is a first-hand account of this shit happening. So yeah, try to bear with me because I'm gonna be showing a lot of screenshots. Basically, they're just gonna be Ari's experience with Mellay and her side of the whole situation. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this actually started in my own Discord server. Mellay shares a 3 Days Grace song. Ari says she likes the song. Then that interaction leads to a pretty normal conversation between the two about music. Now, I guess for whatever reason, this normal conversation between the two was enough to turn on Mellay and make him really fucking horny, because he then proceeds to message Ari asking if it was her in her profile picture, which I have blurred for privacy reasons. They started to talk a little bit, and like I said, it was a pretty regular interaction at first, but something inside Mellay's decaying brain told him that simple interaction with a girl just simply wasn't enough for him. He randomly asks Ari to be his girlfriend after literally one conversation they had over Discord. Obviously, Ari isn't gonna say yes to him. She declines him and tells him not only does she not do online dating, but she's also in a relationship already. Now, for some reason, Mellay can't really take no for an answer. He just won't bring himself to accept the fact that he got rejected. He would constantly press Ari and try to get her to break up with her girlfriend at the time. Obviously, Ari wasn't gonna. He progressively became more rapey and unhinged the more she denied him. The more she rejected him, the more obsessive he became. Now, my honest theory behind all this is that inside of his own fucking rotted brain, Mellay is of the highest status possible. I've already gone over this, but he can't handle being rejected because he doesn't believe he can be rejected due to his ego being so unbelievably high. He doesn't understand what no means and believes he's perfect in every way, shape, and form. This also reflects on his YouTube videos since he doesn't really tend to implement any criticism given to him because he believes his videos are already peak, but that's besides the point. I'm straying away from the story. Anyway, at one point, Mellay started threatening to do some unhinged shit like kill Ari, dox her, rape her, etc. After she blocked him, he continuously found ways to contact her, whether it was an alt account or another social media platform. This fucking stalker went out of his way to find Ari's Instagram, which Ari did not provide him with. Mellay screenshotted pictures from Ari's Instagram and made really creepy pornographic edits of them. I would show the censored version of them to you guys, but Ari specifically told me not to because some of them did show her face, so you'll just have to take Ari's word for it. Mellay went and spammed these edited images to group chats and even his own Discord server, which is baffling to me because why the fuck would you want your own YouTube fans and audience to see you acting like this? Ari left Mellay's server reasonably, and Mellay would beg Ari to come back and unblock him. He tried to say Ari was a porn star for some reason, and that she had an OnlyFans, which are both false. And what makes it even weirder was that Ari was, and still is, a minor, so it really is just plain weird for Mellay to try to frame Ari as some sort of porn star because she is underage. And to nobody's surprise, Mellay's desperate lonely ass still tries to contact Ari to this day. And that is going to conclude Ari's side of this whole situation. I did my best to provide you with with every screenshot that I had. Hopefully you didn't need to pause too much to read some of the frightening shit that he said. I'm sorry if you did, but this is honestly just some mind-blowing shit from Mellay here. To be fair, if there's anyone I would expect to act like this toward anybody, the first person would be fucking Mellay. I don't even really think there's anything I could say, any amount of words I could say, that would truly express how much of a fucking unhinged weirdo that Mellay is. Now, honestly, Mellay might be kind of a sociopath. It just seems like he just says whatever comes to his mind without any second thought. He doesn't really think about the things that he says before he sends them, despite having all that fucking time to reflect on yourself before you press the send button. He doesn't really stop to think about the implications that him saying this shit could have, especially publicly. I mean, this situation wasn't public, but he does say some similar things that are public. I don't think Mellay even has the brain cells to think that far into the future, to be honest. He's not really secretive about the shit that he does. He has zero fucking shame in doing it whatsoever. And honestly, I have no idea how someone like Mellay has a following. He actually has fans, and I will never understand how or why. There are very few of them, but he does have them, and I have a feeling that they're either brain-dead zombies who just follow whatever, or genuine bots. I hope I was able to actually explain this well to you guys, because like I said, there's been no other commentator that has talked about this or even knows about this, so I'm glad I have the opportunity to show you guys this shit. And if you want to help, then make sure to share this video so it doesn't go under the radar, because we can't let Mellay keep getting away with this type of shit. So please do show your support for this video, just so we can hit the algorithm. Make sure you comment and do whatever you can to make everyone see how much of a fucking loser this guy really is.
With the accounting hate train that's developed against Mellay, it's clear that he's earned the title of the most infamous in the small commentary community. But there is more than meets the eye. Mellay is no stranger to controversy. The past year has been a somewhat rough one in terms of his reputation in and out of the community for sure. And when you look at Mellay's online history, it's reasonable to assume that the persona he tries to mimic is Leafy's persona, and that's the abrasive and edgy topic commentator. With the behavior that he's been utilizing, it's been causing him to spiral into tons of controversies with friends, or just controversies in general, thus leaving someone like the likes of Mellay to receive criticism about their behavior, something that Mellay tries to deflect. But when Mellay is confronted with criticism, he falls into this tight eggshell situation in which he can either accept the criticism and take responsibility for what he's done, or he can either try to defend himself from the criticism he has received. And when being cornered, he'll open fire in both directions, having left an insufficient response to something as critical commentary. This leads on to my point of how Mellay exhibits and displays his lack of remorse when in controversy. This lack of remorse is usually shown whenever he'll try to justify or do damage control in situations he gets himself into, arguing with others on how a situation isn't as bad as it sounds, when in reality, your friends, or let alone your best friends, wouldn't even do this to you. For this chapter, I'm going to be discussing a few situations where he has done this and how it ties into his sociopathic tendencies that he displays, whether if it's regarding his online persona, other commentators, or his own friend groups. These situations would get him under a lot of negative light, and many labels would be thrown at him like backstabber, scumbag, and so on, which would squander his reputation in the small commentary community. This has caused him to be on several podcasts defending his actions and trying to explain the controversies he's got himself entangled in. Now, before I begin this chapter, I want to make this explicitly clear. I'm not trying to say that Mellay is a sociopath, nor am I trying to diagnose him as such. But it is fair to say that he exhibits traits where his lack of awareness or remorse of how his actions affect others would give the impression of how he either acts like one or behaves like one. Now, if you don't know who I am Iris Hyacinith, and I've been tasked by my friend Sapphire05 to unveil his sociopathic tendencies. So grab a drink, and let's get ready to analyze Mellay's deranged mindset even further, as you will probably find some more disturbing facts about his character. I'm not quite sure why, but throughout Mellay's time on YouTube, he has gradually shown a consistent pattern of where he'll just lack any form of remorse in situations that involve other commentators or just his own group of friends. Mellay also seems to have a tendency to, despite knowing that his friends don't want their faces shared around, he'll do it anyway. Now, Sapphire had gradually discussed about Mellay's history of doxing, but he didn't exactly go too far into the topic. So I figured that I should illustrate to you all on how this tiny issue has started to gradually get worse. Now, I do want to clarify that everything I'm talking about is way before the Nomasyaf allegations, and this chapter is speaking in the form of a friend's perspective and just genuine betrayal from Mellay. Now for some context. Mellay isn't what you consider to be a very good friend. He's had videos made on him before regarding him as a rat, scumbag, and so on. And these labels would garner him lots of negative infamy to his name. This negative infamy only started to accentuate his leveling dislike in the community. However, it wouldn't completely halt Mellay from making friends in the community. One of his former friends at the time was Based Azaz, and Based Azaz is another small commentator who is mostly known for criticizing other commentary channels and giving them constructive criticism. Mellay met Based Azaz a long while ago and was able to start a podcast with another person by the name of Nomasyaf. As you can imagine, the friendship eventually didn't last long. Based Azaz and Mellay would get into arguments and fight with each other. Eventually, the friendship withered out when Mellay had leaked a picture of Based Azaz online. The person who was doxxed, Based Azaz, was rightfully upset that his face was leaked publicly online. When his friends had realized what exactly was transpiring, they came to Based Azaz's defense, basically calling out Mellay for being the scum of the earth, and shit like that. This situation was enough to where other commentators had questioned him on a podcast called Trash Talk to discuss if he had any form of remorse after that situation fell on him. During the podcast, he apologized in a call to Nomasyaf about the situation, and his reasoning of why he showed his face was merely a test to see if he would get blocked by him.
I'm just there just to see if he's gonna block me. It was like a test to see if he's gonna block me or not.
Yeah, but you do realise that's still a scummy thing to do regardless of why you did it. You did that to get on his nerves to get a reaction.
Mellay also made a statement in this podcast saying that people would do this all the time, so therefore it makes it not so bad.
I mean, people were doing this for years, way before the small commentary community was found.
Mellay tried to justify it by saying that his face was already leaked by someone by the name of G-Tastic, so therefore it was public now. Regardless if it was leaked by someone online, it doesn't give the right for someone of the likes of you to share it as if it was public to begin with. Another reason for why Mellay had doxed Based Azaz was because he was being insufferable. If you're really trying to justify it as him being insufferable doesn't make you any fucking better. People could even argue that you're the most insufferable person in that situation. Now, the person that's being referenced here, G-Tastic, has apologized to Based Azaz for the whole situation, but for some reason, Mellay tries to say that posting the image to Twitter multiple times isn't as bad as the person G-Tastic showing it once and apologizing. Mellay also tries to argue that Based Azaz has shared it to a few people, but what he doesn't understand is that he shows his face online a lot more than Based Azaz does. So Based Azaz's case is going to be favored more because it was not your business or right to post his face because it was only shared with a few select people. And if Based Azaz did share his face with a few select people, that should have also been a sign to where he doesn't want his face to be out in the public. It's not like he was trying to actively make it public online and putting it everywhere. It was for a select crowd of people to view, and it shouldn't have given you any right to hold on to that image whatsoever, especially if you consider the fact that that image wasn't even for you. Now, another argument that Mellay makes in this podcast is that nobody would have known it was Based Azaz's face if he didn't say anything about it.
Obviously, if it was his face, if he literally just shut up about it, like, people wouldn't even realize if it was his face if he didn't make it so obvious.
What he doesn't seem to understand is that someone is allowed to be rightfully upset that some troglodyte like Mellay shared his face around, especially since it was supposed to be private. So, let's review. What we've learned here, a small commentator named G-Tastic had leaked Based Azaz's face a long while ago, only for Mellay to hold on to that image for a long time. Mellay became good friends with Nomasyaf and Based Azaz, all while still holding on to that image. Mellay had doxed his face multiple times on Twitter with the sole purpose of trying to test him to see his reaction. After the damage was done, he would try to continually justify and do damage control on what he did while lacking any form of remorse about what he did. Despite Mellay's awareness of his privacy, he did not care whatsoever, because if he really did, he wouldn't have saved that image after it was leaked and not made it public. While all of that was going down, he was willing to throw Nomasyalf under the bus for simply defending a friend that he doxed. Nomasyalf and Base Azaz had made videos venting about the situation, and rightfully so. From the perspective of both sides' stories, let's break them down in a simplified manner. Mellay argues that Base Azaz had his face leaked to G-Tastic, so therefore his face is now labeled within the public domain. He would go on to save that image on his hard drive after months of him holding onto that picture, and he wanted to test Based Azaz to see if he could get a reaction out of him. And when he did, he would go ahead to leak Based Azaz's face multiple times on Twitter. Nomasyalf said that G-Tastic leaked his face, and when Mellay got a hold of supposed image, he saved it on his hard drive, and Nomasyalf labels that as an infringement of privacy. He also says that Mellay held onto supposed image for the sole intention to leak it when he became the butt of the joke. And if you look over the situation from both parties and both sides, you can come to realize that Mellay is massively in the wrong about the situation. And when Mellay is in the wrong, he'll try to reason his actions and try to do damage control on his controversies. Now, this isn't just one case of where Mellay doxed his friends. There's actually another situation just like this with another small commentator named Kuiper. Now, Kuiper is good friends with Mellay, and they would collaborate a good amount. And since their friendship was set in stone, they would constantly back each other up when either one of them was in controversy. For the most part, things were going pretty smoothly until Mellay decided to share Kuiper's face. Now, during the time it happened, Kuiper got invited to a supposed group chat by Mellay and his degenerate friends. From the time Kuiper was in the group chat, he said that Mellay just randomly sent his face in the group chat, and he was venting his genuine frustration with him when he did this. Kuiper took an opportunity to make a video on Mellay explaining how deeply upset he was when Mellay shared his face around to other people without his permission.
And now, I'm just fucking pissed. Like, I fucking... okay, let's just drop the act right now. I am fucking pissed right now. Like, this is not the first time Mellay fucked up, but this time Mellay truly fucked up. I literally trusted this motherfucker, and I'm now fucking pissed.
Kuiper also explains that Mellay knew his face for months and was told not to share it with others because Kuiper gave it to a select crowd of people, and Mellay blatantly disregarded of what he said until this eventually broke their friendship. And if you actually scroll down to the comment section, you would actually see Mellay commenting on the video what it looks like to be him apologizing about what he did. But when you read the whole comment, you'll see him in the comments trying to reason the situation of how it was not as bad as it sounds. But basically, all you need to know for that comment was that Mellay was blaming Kuiper, and then he apologized later in the comment section. An interesting note for you all, Kuiper actually saw Mellay do this before. An example being the Base Azaz situation we covered a while ago. When that situation transpired, he was criticized for constantly meat-riding Mellay.
And I would like to say this to his fuck buddy Kuiper, if you're gonna pull bullshit like every other time we completely dick ride Mellay and just being an annoying twat, then just fuck off, okay? If you're not like that, and Kuiper, you're your own fucking person, just completely ditch Mellay, because this is fucked. What he's doing is completely fucked.
There have been quite many signs given to Kuiper to show that Mellay isn't someone to share your face around, but he eventually learned a lesson from the situation. Now, I'm not blaming Kuiper, even though it's slightly his fault for trusting Mellay. Mellay is entirely a piece of shit for actually doing the stunt twice in a row, but the only difference is that there was no motivation for him to post Kuiper's face. And if he was asked of what he sent, I guarantee he would have told him it was Kuiper's face. Mellay's tendency to just share his friends' faces in random group chats or randomly on Twitter isn't entirely explained, but it's probably because of his lack of critical thinking and just massive insecurity when he just becomes the butt of the joke for a minute. When Mellay was questioned of why he sent Kuiper's face in a group chat, his response was that he did it for the memes.
Why would you send someone else's face in the first place, mate?
Oh, I did it for the memes, bro.
Not even the fact that you doxed him, the fact that you're friends with this guy. I've looked at your past videos, you've done collabs with him. You fucking doxed your own friend. How much of a cunt could you be?
Now, it seems that Kuiper and Mellay have talked to each other about the situation and have resolved this amicably. Mellay even says on a Twitter post that he's apologized to Kuiper about the situation, which is a honestly good thing to hear, but it still remains the question, would Mellay do more shit like this to his friends in the future, or just in general? We're just gonna have to find out later on in the future. Another negative trait that Mellay has is that he'll just think impulsively and not think about the consequences of what he's doing. These impulsive decisions are randomized and they usually come around once a while, but one good example is that he would show his address to random people online. Sapphire has had one encounter with Mellay where he jokingly asked him for his address just because everyone else was doing it, and he actually gave him his address. And the reason why was because he got doxxed. So him just carelessly showing his docs to more people is just one way to keep himself safe, apparently. In fact, he even goes as far to tell him which unit he's in. Now, I'm not sure what exactly gave him the idea to start sending his address to random people online, but this is one of the dumbest ideas that Mellay has done. Not only is he putting himself at risk, but also his family. These few examples that I've given you just illustrate his massive impulsivity. Now to finally conclude this chapter. Mellay is a bad friend who will either try to farm a reaction out of his friends by either annoying them or antagonizing them, and when they give in, Mellay will do some massively scummy shit just to get back at them. He'll try to constantly justify his actions and pin the blame on his friends despite it was his fuck up. His lack of remorse or empathy would get labels thrown at him saying that he's a rat and a scumbag, and has been labeled as a cautionary tale of what happens when you're friends with someone like Mellay. Mellay isn't in any way sorry for what he did, because if he truly was sorry, he wouldn't have justified it, started blaming his friends, and tried to minimize the problem. It's been a year of the same cycle being repeated by Mellay, and it shows no signs of stopping anytime soon. If you are by any chance friends with Mellay, it's just generally recommended that you aren't friends with someone like him. And if Mellay tries to add you on any platform, just try not to accept his friend requests, as you'd be sparing yourself the absolute hopelessness Mellay has for his social status. Regardless if you agree or disagree on the contents I've presented in this chapter, I'm convinced that we'll both agree that Mellay is a loser and always will be, for he will be always remembered as the commentary community's example of wasted potential.
After all is said and done, I think there's a very slim chance that we'll see any real improvement from Mellay. He seems like a bit of a lost cause at this point, but that's not exactly something that any of us can change. In order for any change to happen, Mellay needs to take initiative and take the steps to becoming a better person on his own will. But due to his narcissistic mindset and self-centeredness, I, as well as many others, believe there isn't much hope for that. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to thank you for sticking around and listening to what we had to say. A lot of people don't really have the patience to watch a long video like this until the end, so it means a lot to us. Make sure you take a trip to the description and check out Iris's channel. He's honestly very underrated, and this project would have never been a reality without him. And of course, thank you to everyone who participated by giving screenshots or sharing their personal experiences with Mellay. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback in the comments. What did you enjoy about this video? What can be improved? We're always open to constructive criticism, and we value the opinions of all of our viewers. Again, as time goes on, we can only hope that Mellay will crawl out of the hole he's managed to dig himself into. Will Mellay come to his senses and improve, or will he continue his downward descent into becoming the small commentary community's most hated creator?
giving me some gas? I'm in line. I've been waiting for you. Bro, can you give me some gas? I've been waiting just like everybody else.
Yeah, and